Hi, everyone. Welcome to the contributors meeting. I'm Leo. I'm going to be your host today. And let me start by sharing my screen. All right. So as usual, starting off with the triage and discussion, Hamilton and Keith were the primary and secondary for the week. So do you have anything to mention about this week, Hamilton? Keith?
I did not. I was just taking a look and it looks like 2 people have opened topics in the last 2 hours. So I was just looking at what they added, but before that, there was nothing. I think the last discussion topic before that was in February. So I can take a look at those, but other than that, yeah, nothing of note.
For me, I don't have anything. I'm just looking at one of the issues that somebody opened, trying to reproduce it. But that's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So as usual, again, so let's decide who's going to be primary and secondary for next week. Any volunteers for primary and secondary?
Hi, Leo. I can
It's not at KubeCon.
It's going to be KubeCon next week. You're right. Yeah. It's going to be probably an unusual week. But anyways, yeah, I guess we still need the primary and secondary.
I can go for secondary.
Ishab? All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone for primary? Otherwise, I will go with the in the order of the list. I don't know. Jonathan, are you able to be primary next week? We can't hear you. I don't know if Ishita is there. Okay, let me simplify this. I'll put myself as primary. And all right, let's move on. Okay, so next topic of the day, we have quite a few. First one with Michael, basically is something that we discussed together, but I'll let you, Michael, lead the way.
Yeah, so in config management plugins, the users are allowed to pass arbitrary environment variables from the application manifest. And that's potentially a problem because they could overwrite or write environment variables which cause code execution, cause malicious behavior. I know a lot of config management plugins use Git, and Git has just a ton of config environment variables that could be misused. So the proposal is prefix all of those environment variables before they make it to the config management plugin. And then the CMP author, if they want, can take that prefix environment variable and basically remove the prefix. So they have to at least know that the user is passing that variable. The question is, do we have a deprecation period where we say, eventually we're going to prefix all these environment variables, so change your config management plugins, or do we go ahead and prefix everything now and just write up a really nice upgrade note, maybe put it in the release blog that people need to update their CMPs. Since it's a security enhancement, Leo and I thought maybe we'd want to be more aggressive and go ahead and prefix, but if it seems like it'd be too much of a burden for the users, I'm susceptible to counter arguments.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's appropriate to be a bit more aggressive since, like you said, it's a security issue, and I think, yeah, I mean, the earlier we do it, the less people will be affected, right?
I think I agree with that. As we're facing quite a few security issues. I think if we document this well, I think it's gonna be still well accepted. But again, just my opinion, and I think it's worth hearing other people. Anyone else with strong opinion by not breaking this and having a deprecation period for those environment variables?
We probably should put some deprecation notice or even just say that it's being considered, and allow a little bit of time for people to see it, just because, you know, somebody may be relying on it, and you know, they just happen to not be in this meeting. So is that discussion, is there a deprecation notice anywhere?
Not yet. I don't
Not
believe so.
currently, no.
Okay. So yeah, I think, Michael, I think I would advise writing up a little bit about the deprecation and what it's going to affect, and then we can post in the Argo channels and leave it open at least a week or two, to let people come in and say, oh, actually we use that or whatever, so that there's not going to be a surprise for them. Because I mean, on the other side, if it's for 2.4, the potential is that we remove it and then people yell about it and we have to add it back into 2.4. So I guess either way is potentially okay, but if it's not going to delay the release, because right now nothing else is waiting on for 2.4. There's a bunch of other stuff that's waiting, is my point. So doing a deprecation notice, I feel like, would give chance for people to bring it up now rather than waiting for them to be surprised about it later.
Okay, I will write up basically upgrade instructions and add them to that PR, as well as just a notice that we can put in the Slack channels.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sweet.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So moving forward, another topic from Michael, WebSockets error in terminal feature. I've seen that. Mike, you want to comment on this?
Yeah, this is another just, I'd like folks to take a look because I know virtually nothing about WebSockets. And this is a fairly high profile feature. So if you know a bunch about WebSockets and you can look at like Chrome network logs and tell what's going wrong with this user setup, that'd be awesome.
I read about this and I had the impression it was already solved by the RBAC. It's an open issue.
It was an interesting thread because there were like 3 people with 3 maybe related, some unrelated issues. So I think one person got their stuff sorted, but I don't think the person whose comment is highlighted at AVG 7.
Right, this error, right?
Fixed. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, this is a call for help. If someone is more familiar with WebSockets, to maybe take a look and help with this.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay, so moving forward, can we cherry pick AppSec GitLab PR generator to 2.4? Michael, again?
I know RCs are supposed to be a little bit feature freezy, but we have one user who'd really like to see this, and the change is fairly small and isolated to application set. So yeah, if anyone's opposed to cherry picking this over, let me know, but otherwise I think we should just go ahead and do it.
I don't know the underlying code for this very well. It's being cherry picked from where?
So this is someone who's got a PR against master for the GitLab PR generator for application set. And since we've already cut the RC, if I merge this PR, and I think like I haven't reviewed it completely yet, but once I do, I'll merge it to master. And the question is, do we then cherry pick it over to the 2.4 branch?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, once it's gone through review, I don't see why not.
Doesn't I think I have a mixed opinion about this. It doesn't look like a super small change, and it's a new feature, right? And that is coming in after the release candidate was tagged. So what is the implication of having this just for the next release?
Just some user has to wait till 2.5 to get this feature,
Yeah.
which they've been waiting on. So it looks like a big PR because it has this big JSON blob and it has some big test stuff. A lot of that is just tests. The real guts of it is about 30 lines of code.
How soon do you think you can get through the PR?
I've already given it a good first pass, and I expect to merge it this afternoon.
We already cut an RC, right, though?
Yes.
I mean, after we cut an RC, we shouldn't really add more stuff to it, in my opinion, but
Yeah, the more we add, the slower it's going to be. I think I agree with that.
'cause we have a history of a slippery slope of adding stuff late and then run into some bugs and it delays everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always argued for being more strict with the dates, and you miss, because the problem is once you start delaying a release, then you push things to the next release, and then people don't want to wait because it's longer. And if it's stricter with the dates, then it's going to be at most a quarter to wait. So
I'm convinced by Henrik and Luz's arguments that it's probably best to wait, because I was thinking for some reason that it wasn't for 2.4. I was thinking it was of the next one. So I was like, yeah, I don't even know why you're asking. But yeah, after the release candidate, since it is a new feature, I think I agree that we should keep it separate. I mean, yeah.
That is fine by me. I'll let them know. Thanks, so.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Okay, so moving forward, Dan, I think this was added by you. I saw you typing.
So I had two issues to bring up from people that weren't able to join, and they asked if I could discuss them. So this first one is the introduce RBAC based approach to pod logs. So the issue with this is that the feature included two sides, one for basically the back end to create the RBAC and to enforce it, and the other for the front end to expose what was happening. And the back end work was completed and merged and brought into the RC, but the UI work hasn't been done yet. So there is some potential issue there where we basically it's incomplete. So the question is either we pull out the backend component or we ship it knowing that we basically will have a UI error until this is fixed. And I think, Michael, you took a look at this and you suggested that we just move forward with it because even with the log, the error, the UI error is essentially that you'll get an unable to load data internal error, which isn't as, maybe not, it's a little bit of an ugly error, but the RBAC will still be there and you can use it. And I think it requires a feature flag to enable in the config map. Michael, are you familiar with this one?
Yes, the feature flag enabling RBAC enforcement for logs is disabled by default. I do have a release note or an upgrading note that says it'd be cool if y'all would go ahead and enable that flag. But yeah, it is disabled by default.
Meaning if
maybe-
it's disabled, users are not gonna see the error in the UI?
That's my understanding, correct. So if you're a user and you don't have RBAC to view logs and the feature flag is enabled, then you'll get the ugly error.
So yeah, I mean, in order to get the RBAC on the logs, because otherwise they're just not public, but they're available, you have to enable the feature flag. And so, I mean, my instinct here, Michael, is I would probably agree with you that I would probably let it go forward and maybe you know, add a little notice on this feature that there is kind of a known issue that the UI error isn't as nice. And since it is an opt-in feature, you know, it's like people aren't going to run into it on accident. They're going to have to be looking for this feature, turn it on, and then maybe once the UI piece comes in, then we could think about enabling the feature by default rather than having it be opt-in only.
I guess my question is, does this feature provides any functionality if even having the UI broken, it's just having the back end working, does it has any valuable functionality?
Yeah, because you can basically not enable the RBAC on the pod logs. And so if that's an important security feature you're looking for, it will accomplish that task in the UI, is my understanding. It's just that the UI will give an ugly error rather than a nice error that makes it really clear what's going on. And yeah, as Rishab points out, yeah, the documentation was added in as well.
Okay, so there's already documentation for this.
Yeah, it's already been merged,
Mhm.
and it's already part of the RC. And Regina was basically just like, oh, I didn't realize it was going to get merged because I don't have the UI piece done yet. So I feel like it's incomplete. So she just wanted to flag it as like a potential issue of like, if we push it forward, there is the expected behavior of basically an ugly error in the UI if people try to use this feature, but the feature works. It just isn't necessarily totally intuitive from the UI side. So, you know, I tend to think that if people are enabling it, as long, maybe we add a little bit of notice on the documentation about the about that error, just so people that go to use it, they'll know what to look for, and then we can remove it once the UI component is complete.
I think that makes sense. And I think the docs change can happen in the upgrade guide where we recommend actually enabling the flag as well as in just the docs for the feature. Just 2 little notes, internal server error will happen if someone doesn't have permission.
And make sure it's in the release notes as well.
Yep, makes sense. Do we have a main place where we keep track of what we need to put in the release notes? Because it seems like it's a lot and I forget a lot of stuff.
All right, cool.
I don't know if you do. Do we need to have a tag on the issues or something?
Yeah, or maybe the upgrade guide is enough to remind us of all the stuff we need in the release notes, plus the blog. I don't know.
Okay. I'll make a note that we should, the consensus is to move forward and to add a release note. So I'll ask Regina if she can do that.
All right, thanks, Dan. Okay. Moving forward, I guess another topic, this one about notifications engine. I think it was added by you as well, Dan.
Yeah, this is one that somebody's been waiting on. Well, the way they talked about it, it sounded like a long time, but now that I'm looking at the PR, it's 15 days ago. So this this PR just is a fairly small fix. And it was merged into notification engine on April 27th. When is notification engine brought into, when is that put part of the release? Like when was the cutoff date? Because we were just trying to figure out, I actually thought that this one was within the cutoff. So I actually don't know how we deal with bringing in notification engine updates.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with notification engine. I don't know if someone in the call is, but I haven't worked with that.
Yes, and I don't know how that works.
Maybe it would be more a question for Alex.
My understanding, and I could be totally wrong, was that basically this was essentially picked into Argo CD. I don't like Argo CD is an implementation of Argo CD, has an implementation of Argo CD notifications, but then I don't know how we actually get updates into Argo CD when notification engine is updated. And so it felt like there was maybe a hole in understanding like how often that's updated. Like looking at our notification controller, that hasn't been updated in like 5 months. So
wait, I think the notification engine is a dependency in it referenced by go mod, and then if and when we pick up a newer version and then do web the update and fixes. I think notification in Argo CD is a thin layer, basically a thin wrapper around the notification engine.
So we basically need a PR to update the version of that package.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Okay, so I can take that back to Kevin, and then maybe there's just like, I don't know when we make the decisions of updating those underlying versions and when they get pulled in. So I guess I'll just ask him to go and open a PR on Argo CD to update the version. And then I don't know if there's who works on notification engine, because or how they deal releases. So that, I don't know, this is just a whole part of the process I'm not super familiar with. And so I guess I'll just take well, yeah, when are the releases? Like I'm looking at it and there hasn't been a release on notification engine since November 2021. So yeah, it's fairly old. And in terms of commits, it looks like we have quite a few commits going back to when that previous version was released. So given that, I guess we need to, so I guess there's 2 steps. We need to push for a new release of notification engine and then get a PR to update the package. So I don't know who can cut a release on this. I guess Alex or Ryota hasn't really been as active. Maybe Pasha could push a release of it. So, okay, I guess it's a bit more complicated than I realized, because we basically have to push 2 additional changes to get the release cut.
We have a similar process with GitOps engine. So basically, I can tell by myself when I work on something related to a change that requires modifying GitOps engine, I take care of the whole process. So I know that GitOps engine needs to be released, and I know that once that is done, GoMod needs to be updated to the released version. So that's usually how I do this. If the notification engine follows the same pattern, yeah, I think it's a process that we need to follow, basically.
Okay, I'll take that with Kevin, and and just tag a few other folks on the issue. I think I'll just create it as an issue to cut a release and reference kind of all these items. And then presumably we wouldn't do this as part of 2.4 because it basically has new features in it. So it would need to go into 2.5. Right?
Probably, yeah.
I was just looking at the Go mod file for Argo CD. It looks like it's pulling in a commit from March 22nd.
Oh, so it's actually pulling them in out of
Yeah,
not
it's not.
necessarily a release.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. There's a commit on March 22nd. The SHA starts with AC18 CA1. It looks like that's what it's pulling in.
So you said it's pulling from March.
Right.
So that means we're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commits. One of them is a feature for PagerDuty integration. 2 are testings, 1's and then 2 are bug fixes. So there's only one feature, which is a PagerDuty integration, and then there are 2 bug fixes and an additional set of tests.
Yeah, you can see here it was updated like 2 months ago by a contributor. That's a dependency in Argo CD.
Okay, so let's, I guess we'll get a PR open to try to update it. If it's not doing on a regular release, if it's doing it based just on like essentially picking out a commit, then you know, I guess we would just evaluate it as a PR, and getting the fixes in feels like a potential priority. The 2 features, which is the PagerDuty integration and allow list of triggers and notification annotation, maybe those get bumped to 2.4 just because we're feature frozen, right? So okay, so I'll work with Kevin to get a PR in to update the version, and then we can have a discussion about if we want to cherry pick the fixes or if we want to pull the whole thing in. And I'm not familiar with that part of the code base, so I'm probably not the best judge of it, and maybe somebody else can weigh in. So that's what I needed. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dan. All right, so that wraps up the topics that we had planned for the day. If somebody else has a last minute topic, please let us know. If not, I'll give you those few minutes back. Doesn't seem like we have anything. All right, okay. So thanks everyone for whoever is going to KubeCon. Have fun and see you next week. Later.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.